The market was loud, full of shouts, smells, and the sounds of cages being dragged across the floor. Creatures from many planets were lined up like broken toys, their faces tired, their eyes empty. But in one corner, behind thick glass and heavy chains, stood someone different. She was tall, her skin a soft silver color that shimmered like moonlight. Her eyes were glowing blue, but not with power, with sadness. Her name was Alira. She was an alien mother, and she had sold herself. The auctioneer, a fat, four-eyed alien, hit the metal stand and shouted, "Rare piece here. Strong bones. Good for work or company. Bidding starts now." But the crowd did not move. They just stared, confused. Why was such a rare being standing there, with no fight in her eyes? From the back of the market, a human man stepped forward. His boots were worn, his coat dusty. He didn't speak, didn't shout, didn't even look around. His name was Captain Ray. He was known across trade routes, not for war, but for silence. He walked straight to the cage, his eyes on Alira. The auctioneer laughed. "Human, you got money for this one? She's not cheap." Ray said nothing. He took out a black card, placed it on the scanner. The screen flashed green. Payment accepted. The machine said. The cage opened slowly. Alira didn't move, she thought. It was a trick. Slavers don't free slaves. Not unless they want something worse in return. Ray stepped inside, held out a hand. "You're free now," he said in a soft voice. Alira blinked. She had heard many languages in her life. But this tone, this calmness, confused her. "No one is free," she whispered back. "Not here." He didn't force her. He just nodded, stepped aside. She walked out, slowly, her hands still shaking. The crowd stared, but no one stopped. No one understood what just happened. Ray led her to his ship. A small, old freighter parked near the edge of the spaceport. Inside, it was quiet, simple, clean. Alira sat in the corner, far from him, silent. Ray offered her food, water, a blanket. She didn't touch anything. She watched him, waiting for the demand, the punishment, the truth, but none came. Days passed. Ray didn't ask her questions, didn't treat her like a slave. He worked. Fixed the engine, read old books, drank bitter coffee. Sometimes he spoke to himself. Small jokes, quiet thoughts. Sometimes he looked at her and smiled, but never got close on the fourth day. Alira finally spoke. Her voice was dry, like wind. "Over sand. Why did you buy me?" Ray looked up. "Because no one else should have." "That is not an answer," she said. Ray stood, walked to the window, looked out at the stars. "I've seen what they do to people they buy," he said. "I didn't want to see that happen again." Alira stared at him. She wanted to believe, but belief was a dangerous thing. It made you hope, and hope could hurt. "Still," she asked, "do you know what I gave up?" Ray turned to her. "No," he said honestly, "but maybe one day you'll tell me." She looked away, her fingers touching the chain still wrapped around her wrist. "I had a child," she said, her voice a little louder now. "He was hungry. Sick. I had nothing, so I sold myself to feed him." Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She couldn't, not anymore. Ray nodded slowly. "Where is he now?" he asked. Alira shook her head. "I don't know." She looked at Ray, for the first time truly looking. "If I tell you where I last saw him, will you help me find him?" Ray didn't answer right away. He walked to the ship controls, pressed a few buttons. Then he looked at her, eyes serious. "Yes," he said, "I'll help you, but it won't be safe." "I don't care," she replied. Ray gave a small smile. "Then we better start." But as he pulled up the last known location from her memory, the screen flickered. A red warning flashed. "You are being watched," it said. Ray frowned. Someone had planted a tracker in her memory. Someone didn't want this child to be found, and Alira's past was more dangerous than either of them knew. Asterisk. The dream always began the same way. A small hand, warm and soft, holding her finger. A pair of golden eyes looking up at her. Then the sky would crack open. Metal claws would grab her child, and her screams would vanish in silence. Illyra woke up, her skin damp, her heart heavy. She had not spoken much since they left the slave market, but now inside Captain Ray's ship, floating between stars, the silence had become too heavy to carry alone. She walked to the control room where Ray was fixing a loose panel. The lights were dim, the hum of the engine the only sound. Ray glanced up, surprised to see her. Illyra didn't sit, didn't wait. She simply said, "My child's name is Kale." Ray put down his tool slowly. "He was 5, she continued, her voice shaking. "We lived on Drosion 4, in the low district where food was just poison with flavor." Her hands curled into fists. "I sold myself because he was starving. I thought the slavers would keep their word, that he would be safe." Ray listened carefully, not interrupting. "You think he's still there?" he asked. Illyra looked up, her eyes filled with a strange light. "No," she said. "I think they took him somewhere else." Ray opened a panel on his console, started typing. "If you can give me the name of the man who took you, I can start." "Digging." Illyra whispered a name, one that felt like poison in her mouth. "Sarnvel." Ray froze. That name was not unknown. Sarnvel was a slaver, yes, but also something worse. A dealer of rare bloodlines, someone who sold children with special DNA to the highest bidder. Ray leaned back, thinking. "You said Kale's eyes were golden." He said slowly. "Yes," Illyra replied. "Like mine, that changed everything." Golden eyes in her species were not just rare, they were powerful. Legend said they could bend light, break energy, even twist time in small moments. If Kale had inherited that gift, he was no longer just a lost child. He was a target. Ray looked at her. "I'll help you," he said again. "But we need to be smart." He connected to a secret database used by traitors and rebels. Typing Sarnvel's name, coordinates appeared, trade logs, and one last known location, a prison world called Krenos. Ray narrowed his eyes. "Krenos is a mining moon," he said. "No child should be there." Illyra stepped closer, her voice cold. "But mine is." Before Ray could speak again, the console screen blinked. A message appeared, short and direct. "Stop searching, human, or we'll come for you." Both. Ray's hand hovered over the shut-off switch, but Illyra was already staring at the screen, her jaw tight. "Let them come," she whispered. "I already sold everything I had. I have nothing left to lose." Ray turned to her, surprised. By her fire, she wasn't just a mother anymore. She was becoming something else, something dangerous. He pulled out a small dataship from a hidden drawer. "This," he said, "is a contact, an information broker. He might know where Kale is, but he doesn't work for free." Illyra didn't blink. "What does he want?" she asked. Ray gave a dark smile. "He always wants something impossible." Before they left, Ray handed her a small device. "Translator," he said. "It will help you speak in human tongue more clearly." Illyra placed it behind her ear. Felt it buzz softly. She spoke again, and this time her voice was smooth, her words clear. "Let's go find him." As the ship flew into the dark space, the stars looked colder. Somewhere far away, a child with golden eyes sat in a metal room. He looked up, sensing something, someone, and he whispered one word. The ship landed on a hidden asteroid city, a place that didn't exist on any map. It was called Grave Point, a city carved into rock and darkness, where the stars didn't shine and trust didn't live. Ray had only been here once before. He never wanted to return, but now, for Illyra's son, he had no choice. The moment they stepped off the ship, whispers followed them like shadows. A human walking with a silver-skinned alien. Too strange, too rare, too noticeable. Illyra felt every stare, but she kept walking, her heart burning with one thought. Kale, her child, was out there, scared and alone. And every step she took here brought her closer to him, or to something far worse. Ray led her down twisting metal corridors, through smoke-filled bars and silent alleys, until they reached a black door with no handle. He knocked 3 times, waited, then knocked once more, slow and loud. The door opened, not by hand but by scent. Something inside had recognized him. They entered a room that smelled like oil and blood. It was full of old machines, screens, and strange tubes filled with things that should not be alive. At the center sat a thin man with silver eyes and skin like dry paper. His name was Merrick. He was not human, not alien. He was something in between. "You brought me a ghost," Merrick said, smiling without lips. "A lost guardian, thought extinct." Alira tensed. "How do you know what I am?" she asked. Merrick leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "I know everything that bleeds," he whispered, "and your kind bled the stars dry once." Ray stepped in. "We need information." "About a boy." Merrick waved a finger in the air, and a hologram appeared, an image of a child with golden eyes, locked in a cold cell. Alira gasped. Her hand flew to her chest. "That's him," she whispered. "That's Kale." Merrick turned to her slowly. "Yes, I know where he is," he said. "But information costs." Alira stepped forward. "Take my ship, take my breath. I don't care." Merrick laughed. A dry, empty sound. "I want something only you can give," he said. Ray narrowed his eyes. "What?" Merrick pointed at Alira's heart. "I want your memory. Not all, just the locked parts." Alira looked confused. "I don't remember much from before Kale," she said. Merrick nodded. "Exactly. You were part of something powerful," he said. "Something that scared even the empires. And someone erased it from you." "I can bring it back," he said. "But once you remember, you can't forget again." Ray stepped between them. "No," he said. "It's too dangerous." Alira placed a hand on his arm. "If it helps me reach Kale, I will do it." She sat in the chair Merrick offered. He placed cold wires on her temples. Lights flickered, machines hummed, then silence. Alira's eyes widened, her breath caught, and the memories returned like fire through ice. She saw herself wearing armor made of living crystal, leading others like her into war. She saw herself standing before kings and refusing their orders. She saw Kale being born, and someone whispering, "He is the last light." Then pain, a flash of light, and darkness again. Alira screamed, and the machines shut down. She fell to the floor, breathing hard, eyes glowing bright. Ray rushed to her, held her close. "What did you see?" he asked. "I remember," she whispered. "I remember everything." Merrick stood slowly. For once without a smile. "You were not just a guardian," he said. "You were their queen." Ray's mouth fell open. Alira's voice shook. "I don't want a crown," she said. "I just want my son." Merrick nodded and gave them the coordinates. "Your child is on Kranos," he said. "But be warned, he is not alone." As they left the dark city, Alira stood taller, her steps heavier. She was no longer just a mother. She was something ancient, something lost. And the galaxy would soon remember her name, Asterisk. The stars outside the ship were quiet, but inside Alira's mind, they were screaming. She stood alone in the ship's observation deck, staring at her reflection in the glass, not at her face, but at her eyes. They were no longer just glowing, they were burning behind her. The memory Merrick unlocked still pulsed like fire through her chest. She remembered the voice of the council, the blades of the traitors, the cry of her baby as he was taken. And most of all, she remembered herself. She wasn't just Alira, the slave mother. She was Alira Vane, last queen of the Lunari Guard, a race thought extinct. Erased, feared. Ray entered the room slowly, holding 2 mugs of hot tea. He didn't speak at first, just stood beside her, sipping quietly. Alira finally turned to him, her voice low. "You were right to be afraid." Ray raised an eyebrow. "Afraid of what?" She held out her hand. A soft light gathered above her palm, like a floating sun wrapped in mist. Then, with a thought, it split into 1,000 golden shards, dancing around her fingers, then vanished. Ray took a slow breath. That wasn't in the brochure, he said, half joking. Alira didn't smile. "This power," she said, It was sealed for a reason. She sat down, her hands shaking. My people could bend light, reshape energy, create weapons from memory. But we were never meant to rule. We were meant to protect. Ray sat beside her, listening. What happened? He asked. Illyra looked at the stars again. We were betrayed, she whispered. By one of our own, one who feared what Kale could become. He sold us to the highest bidder. He took my memories. And he took my child. Ray frowned. Why didn't they just kill you? Illyra's eyes went cold. Because dead queens become legends. But forgotten ones? They disappear. There was silence. Then the ship's alarm blinked once, soft, but urgent. Ray checked the panel. 2 ships behind us. He said, they're not broadcasting IDs. Illyra stood, her voice calm. They found us. Ray pulled the ship hard to the right. The stars spinning outside the windows. Weapons locked on, shields up. But before he could fire, Illyra stepped forward, placed her hand on the console, and the ship responded. Light wrapped around the engines, bending the space behind them. In one blink, they were gone. No jump, no signal, just light and silence. Ray stared at the controls. What did you do? Illyra's breath was heavy. I called on the light, she said. But the cost is high. Her skin was pale, her legs weak. She collapsed into the chair. Ray caught her, panic in his voice. You need to rest, Illyra nodded, her voice fading. Now you know why I feared remembering. He carried her to the med bed, gently placing her down, and as she slept, she whispered in her dreams, Kale, I'm coming. In another part of the galaxy, on the prison moon Krenos, a child with golden eyes looked up at the sky. His chains glowed briefly, then cracked, just a little, as if something far away had whispered his name. The sky above Krenos was not blue. It was cracked stone, black smoke, and silent screams buried in ice. This was not a planet. It was a graveyard for the forgotten. The prison moon circled a dead star, hidden in the shadows of space, no sunlight. Reached its surface, only machines, fences, and walls too high for hope. This was where they kept the ones they wanted to erase. Kale was one of them. He sat inside a cold cell, staring at the wall. His hands were small, his face pale, but his eyes, golden and glowing, still burned with quiet fire. He wasn't just waiting, he was listening. And somewhere deep inside, he could feel her coming, his mother, far above. Ray's ship hovered just beyond radar. Inside, Illyra stood before the mirror, her armor returning piece by piece. It didn't come from metal, it came from memory. Light and thought shaping around her like a forgotten promise. Ray stepped into the room, pausing as he saw her. You look like a goddess, he said quietly. Illyra turned, her eyes sharp but soft. I'm just a mother. She replied, a mother ready to burn worlds. They went over the plan one last time. The prison was built underground, wrapped in metal. Veins and guarded by machines. No guards, no faces, just cold programs that didn't sleep, didn't speak, and didn't forgive. There's only one way in, Ray said, pointing at the screen. A maintenance shaft, 20 meters wide, leads straight into the east chamber. That's where they keep the children. Illyra's hands tightened. How many others? She asked. Dozens, Ray replied. Maybe more, Illyra nodded. We don't leave anyone behind. Ray raised an eyebrow. You planning a rescue or a revolution? Illyra's voice didn't waver. Both. They landed in silence. Darkness wrapping around the ship like a warning. Illyra and Ray moved fast, slipping through the vents, disabling sensors. The deeper they went, the colder it got, like the moon. Itself hated warmth, then. Voices not human, not alien, synthetic, emotionless. Unauthorized movement detected. Zone lock activated. The lights turned red. Walls closed behind them, trapped. Ray reached for his blaster, but Illyra stepped forward first. Her hands glowed, and the wall bent like paper, not broken, rewritten. Ray stared, breathless. You scare me sometimes, he whispered. Illyra looked back. Her smile soft but sad. Good, she said. Fear keeps you alive. They reached the chamber. Rows of children in glass cells, sleeping or silent. Kale's cell was in the center, but something was wrong. He was awake and smiling as Illyra ran to him. The ceiling above shattered. A figure dropped down, wrapped in shadows and tech. A voice echoed, "You really came." It was Sarnvel, the traitor, the thief of children. He raised a weapon, aimed at Illyra. "Step back, Queen, or the boy dies." Ray moved fast, drawing his blaster, but Sarn was quicker. He fired, the shot heading straight for Illyra, and then light exploded. Illyra caught the blast with her bare hands, bending it like wind through water. Sarn's eyes widened. Just before she moved, faster than sound, she hit him once, and the wall behind him cracked, again, and the floor shook. He dropped his weapon, broken and afraid. "You shouldn't have come back," he hissed. Illyra stood tall, her voice like thunder. "You shouldn't have touched my child." She opened Kale's cell, her arms shaking as she pulled him into her chest. "Mother," he whispered. "I never stopped waiting," she cried. Truly cried, for the first time in years. Ray stood nearby, watching, a quiet smile on his face. But the alarms were still ringing, and outside, ships were coming, too many, too fast. Illyra looked at Ray. "Can you get us out?" Ray hesitated. "Not alone." Kale stepped forward, eyes glowing like suns. "I can help," he said. Illyra placed her hand on his shoulder. "Show me." And the two of them, mother and son, reached out together. The ground shook. Lights bent, doors broke open, and every child in that prison opened their eyes. Asterisk. The children didn't speak. They just followed Illyra and Kale through the shattered halls of the prison. Eyes wide, steps quiet, hearts still unsure if they were dreaming or free. Ray led the way, hacking into locked gates, rerouting corridors. Illyra walked in the center, glowing. Calm, dangerous, Kale stayed close to her side, his small hands flickering with golden light. A mother, a son, and dozens of lost voices. Behind them, they were close to the surface now. The final gate stood before them, thick, rusted, humming with silent codes. Ray turned to Illyra. "One more door," he said. Illyra nodded. "We go together." But then the lights went dark, not blinking, not dimming, just gone. Illyra froze. Ray reached for his blaster. Kale stepped behind his mother, whispering, "Something's wrong." From the shadows, a figure stepped out. Not Sarnvel. He was already defeated. This was someone else, someone familiar. Merrick, the information broker. The one who unlocked Illyra's memories. The one who said he wanted nothing else. "I lied," Merrick said softly, his silver eyes gleaming. Ray raised his weapon. "Why are you here?" he demanded. Merrick chuckled. "You really think I helped you out of kindness?" "I followed you here," he said. "Because she woke up," he pointed at Illyra, "the last queen of the Lunari Guard. You're not just a mother, Illyra," he said. "You're a weapon." Illyra narrowed her eyes. "What do you want?" Merrick smiled. "To sell you," he said simply. "You're worth more than any planet." Suddenly, the children were surrounded. Drones dropped from the ceiling, silent and armed. Ray fired once, twice, but was knocked down by a blast of sound. Kale screamed, light bursting from his hands. But it wasn't enough. Merrick stepped toward Illyra. "You can save them," he whispered. "Give me your power. Surrender yourself, and I'll let them leave." Illyra didn't move. Her eyes flicked to Ray, unconscious, bleeding, to Kale, shaking, scared, and to the children. Silent again, just like before. She could end this right now. If she gave in, if she let them take her, they might all live, or maybe they wouldn't. But if she fought, she might lose them all. She closed her eyes, then opened them, glowing like twin stars, and she said only one word: "No." Light exploded outward, brighter than fire, louder than thunder. Merrick screamed, trying to block it, but the force bent the machines around him. The drones fell from the sky like ash. Illyra stood in the center of it all, arms spread, her voice calm. "I am not for sale," she said. I was never yours to take. She fell to her knees, the power fading. Blood ran from her nose, her lips. She was breaking. Kale ran to her, holding her hand. Don't go, he whispered. Ray crawled to her side, voice hoarse. You saved them, he said. But you're hurt bad. Illyra looked at them, her voice barely a breath. I had to choose, and I chose you. Ray held her, heart racing. We need to get you out of here, he said. But the ship. Kale turned toward the exit, his small face full of fire. I can fly it, he said. Ray stared. You're 10. Kale placed his hand on the gate. The metal melted away like sand. He looked back. I'm her son. The stars above Kranos blinked quietly, as if they had just witnessed something ancient, something powerful, something true. Smoke still rose from the prison moon. Lights flickered across broken towers, and inside a small ship lifting off the surface, a child sat in the pilot's chair. Kale's fingers moved fast over controls he had never touched before, but the ship obeyed him like it knew who he was. Behind him, Ray held Illyra in his arms. She was breathing, but only just, her face pale, her armor cracked, her light fading. Ray whispered, "Stay with me," but Illyra's eyes remained closed. Her voice was barely a whisper in the air. "Protect him," she said. "That's all I ask." Ray swallowed hard. "You don't get to leave," he said. "Not after everything we've survived." Kale turned back for a moment, golden tears in his eyes. "Is she?" Ray shook his head. "Not yet." The ship pushed through orbit. Enemy scanners flashed, but only for a second, then went dark. Kale's energy surged through the systems, hiding them like stars behind clouds. They escaped, not with speed, but with silence. Later, when the danger was behind them, Illyra's body lay still in the med chamber. Kale stood beside her, his hand resting on her chest, and he whispered, "Come back." His light spread through her like golden wind, soft, warm, steady, and slowly. Her eyes opened. At first, she said nothing, just looked at Kale, at Ray, then she smiled. A small, tired, beautiful smile. "You brought me back," she said. Kale nodded, his voice shaking. "I couldn't lose you." Ray leaned against the wall, arms crossed, smiling too. "I told you not to die." Illyra sat up slowly. "How many did we save?" Kale answered, "All of them." They flew for hours through deep space. No destination, no orders, just peace. For the first time in years, Ray walked into the living room of the ship, where the children were resting, some sleeping, some laughing. He sat beside Illyra and Kale, both curled under a shared blanket. "So," Ray said softly, "what now?" Illyra looked at Kale, then at Ray. "I was born to protect the kingdom," she said. "But I lost it." Ray nodded. "You found something else instead." Kale reached out, took both their hands. "We're a family now," he said simply. Illyra leaned her head on Ray's shoulder. "No throne," she said. "No guards," Ray smiled. "Just love." The stars outside blinked again, not in warning, but in welcome, because in that ship, carrying a queen without a crown, a boy born with light, and a human who chose kindness over profit, a new story was beginning. Not about power, not about war, but about the most human thing in the galaxy, the choice to care, even when no one else would.